Good evening. Welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this evening. It's been an interesting day when it comes to Celtic. Something to laugh about when it comes to Austin Trusty. Let's do the Celtic stuff first before we go to Austin Trusty. God, that's what's going on with the screen tonight. Weird. Let's do the Austin Trusty stuff, and let's do that first. No, we'll go to Celtic, because Celtic love getting you to be all interactive, and you could support the sports bar at Celtic. Vote for the sports bar at Celtic Park, the People's Choice for the best bar none award. The Sports Bar at Celtic Park has once again been nominated for People's Choice Best Bar Award. I don't know who nominates these things, but do awards really mean anything? I don't think so. Some people do think awards mean stuff, but when it comes to this game, I don't think it does. Pubs are shutting down all over the place, so it's hardly a big accolade being voted best bar by somebody, is it? Anyway, you can support by casting your vote at the Sports Bar until Sunday the 16th of November by clicking the link on the Celtic website. The 2024 award seen the Sports Bar collect a gold accolade for Community Pub Category 2. What's Category 1 then? Best Bar None is the National Accreditation Award Scheme for licensed premises, which recognise venues offering quality experience focused on safety and customer care. Piss off, you want to go there and get pissed, have a good time. That's what you want to go to a pub for. Our sports bar is located at Paradise Park. It's a perfect pre- and post-match meeting post for food and drink, as well as match day. Fans can also enjoy the bar relaxing surroundings when visiting Celtic Park on non-match days. But don't drink and drive, because you have to visit by car. It's just a healthy reminder. You've got to drive there. Unless you stay in Glasgow, and then you can't have a drink, but you can have some food. Anyway, it's a good thing for Celtic to have. I think that it should have had a hotel. I think that the hotel would be far better than a pub inside Celtic Park. Tell me your comments. Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments section, and we'll get you up. This camera, I'm going to have to turn that light up, aren't I? Is that what getting a weird reflection off the TV screen. Anyway, how is all this evening? There's been a little bit, even the SPFL are in on the wind-up when it comes to Austin Trusty. Yes, Austin Trusty has been named in the Team of the Week by the SPFL. Whilst on Monday evening, the noisy neighbours from across the road decided to march to demand a lodge meeting. They demanded a lodge meeting with the SFA to talk about why Celtic get all the decisions. And then today, the SPFL, who are more important than the SFA, let's face it, put Austin Trusty in the Team of the Week. That's just sent them over the edge, hasn't it? It's just completely sent them over the edge, getting put in Team of the Week. As bad as merchandise, give my head space, give me head peace, sort the board out, typical Celtic. Thought we were boycotting. Yeah, but you can still vote for best pub. I mean, I don't know, they've put it out there. People obviously use the pub. It'll be interesting for people to go to games if somebody can go in and just take a video of how many people are in the pub, because then you'll get an indication on how many people are boycotting stuff with inside Celtic Park. I don't even want to think about that stuff tonight, because we've got an important game that is away from home. We're not back at Celtic Park to the end of the month, so you're not going to be going to Celtic. You're lucky if there's probably about 10 to 15 people go anywhere near Celtic Park on a daily basis. I mean, let's face it, the ticket office is nowhere near the main building now, is it? Anyway, top award for whoever used their diploma with honours to come up with the name of the bar. Genius. Oh, jeez. What? Am I going into the Stranger's Scrabble later? No idea what you're talking about, mate. The Stranger's Scrabble. If you mean that rabble lot across the roads, no. Tonight, Kenny Osmond surprised the crowd tonight at the new Celtic Superstore. Cut a ribbon and signing things, taking photos with fans there. Well, there we go. That's just proof that we're not boycotting stuff then, is there? Don't come on to me and start throwing stuff at me. I thought we were doing this, I thought we were doing that. When there's people not doing the boycott. Simple as that. Yeah, let's move on swiftly. And we'll talk about Austin Trusty. Austin Trusty have been all over the media this week for all the wrong reasons. We're at home on Sunday, Baz. So we are. We're at home on Sunday, aren't we? I don't know what day of the week it is. My head's minced after today. I'm now confident for Thursday, says Helen. Are you confident? Just remembered we are home on Thursday, on Sunday. Anyway, we move on swiftly. Sent you a video of Twitter. The place was mobbed. Did you? Let's go and have a look at it. I'll come off that screen because it'll show far too much. Celtic have also been linked with a player, which is a bit unusual. I want to talk about this one first before we talk about Celtic Superstore and stuff. Celtic a couple of weeks ago said that there were no club signings. Now, this was part of the downfall of Brendan Rodgers. This is important, so listen up, people. Tonight, this afternoon, Celtic have been linked with a January swoop for a Kilmarnock player, David Watson. Could it just be... Now, it's Stephen McCowan that put this story out. He tends not to put stories out that are too wide off the mark. But I believe that the player has been linked with Hearts in recent weeks also. Obviously because the Hearts manager used to manage Kilmarnock. People have been saying on Twitter, strange that the club signings weren't a thing and that all signings were made by the manager. If there's a new manager come into the club, he will not know about this young Kilmarnock player. He'll not know a thing about him. I'm not believing that we're about to bring in a manager that's been watching everybody that Celtic's been watching. And I just think that, I know that we have to keep things going as a club. And yes, there is younger players, but he's a first team player at Kilmarnock, isn't he? He's not an academy player. I mean, you could get away with it by saying, yeah, if we were bringing in academy players, it doesn't really affect the first team manager. But when you're talking about bringing in a player on a pre-contract agreement from another club, that affects the first team. Now, where does that fall with a new manager coming into the club? A new manager might come in and go, you're kidding, is that the level of player that we're going to get at the club? Nah, surely not. I'm sorry, but nah, he's not for me. Which could have been the case with Brendan Rodgers, with Inamura, with Shin Yamada, with Jamal Simpson-Pussy, who Celtic decided to put a happy birthday card crap to. And it makes you think, do you know who really is in charge at Celtic? Oh my God, Celtic actually put out the video. I'm going to turn that down so that... it's just showing you the players. It's interviewing players. It's not showing you how many folk were actually there. Oh, wait a minute. Loads of kids. Yep. Signing stuff. Johnny Kenny. Yeah, there's no boycott going on, that's for sure. Folk in the big shop in town in Glasgow. And there we go. So Celtic have put that up just 5 minutes ago on their social medias. Celtic are just taking the piss now, aren't they? They're like, boycott? What boycott? And that's the slap in the face that this board... Oh, if we're going to go down this fucking rabbit hole tonight again, I didn't want to even go down that rabbit hole. This board are just going to be sitting laughing at us, saying, do you know, boycott? What boycott? There are other photos circulating around with a huge line outside, definitely no boycott. Anyway, in other news, Martin O'Neill had to disappear back down to London yesterday. And you might be thinking, it's nothing unusual, but it was a dash back to London. It wasn't planned. He actually managed to get on the phone to talk sport when he was down in London. And Jim White asked him, like, you're a Celtic manager, you've just beaten Rangers in the Cup. Why on earth are you back down in London, Martin? And he said, well, young man, we've got a game in Denmark on Thursday. I was in such a haste to get up to Scotland, that much of a rush, that I never packed my passport. Not thinking, really. Dotty old man that I am, 73, get to have those lapse of concentrations. The missus never said, have you packed your passport? No, well, you're only going to Scotland, you don't need your passport. Ah, yeah, Celtic are in the Europa. Talking about the Europa, I'll get into that in a minute. He said, so I didn't have my passport, so I had to come back down, get my passport, or otherwise I wouldn't have got to go to Denmark. Strangely enough, but it was a moment that, you know, he laughed about on the radio, and then we move on from it because that's what happens. Now, we've been talking a lot about the finances of the club, the finances of Celtic, and when you look at the Champions League, because this is where Celtic want to be, and people say, I'm not interested in the Champions League this season. I'm certainly not, but it's going to become even harder because it looks like this season that the top clubs in the Champions League have got their fucking shit together and they've realised how the competition plays out. Last year, I think that there was a lot of clubs got away with it finishing higher than what they would have, and there was a lot of clubs that finished a lot higher. And you've got to remember, Real Madrid really struggled last year in the Champions League. We're talking about it because ultimately that's where Celtic need to be. We've been speaking about the 78 million that Celtic pay out in wages. Celtic will not be wanting to go 2 seasons without Champions League football, because if they do go 2 seasons without Champions League football, it will have a massive effect on the type of players that we can bring into the club. Now, when you look at the Champions League and you look at the club currently top, it's Bayern. Arsenal were top, but Bayern have went above them on goal difference because they've scored 13 goals in 4 games. Jesus. That's a big shout. Arsenal are in second place, and then they've got Real Madrid. And now the reason I'm looking at this is because you follow the money, and it's going to become even harder for Celtic to make any kind of inroads in Europe. I mean, if we think that we're struggling, yes, it's an early kickoff. The time is on the bottom of the main screen when I've got that up. If you see down the bottom there, it's got the time. Next game, TNT Sports. It's on with a 5:45 kickoff. Helen, that was just for you. But getting back to the Champions League, ultimately it's where Celtic want to be, and it's going to be harder for us to make any kind of inroads to get to the last 16 in the Champions League when you look at some of the results even this evening. But you look at the positions and you look at the clubs that are taken up. I mean, even the top 8, there was a chance. I mean, we were talking last season about Celtic ultimately trying to get into the top 8 of the Champions League. And if a couple of results had went our way, we could have got into the top 8. Ultimately, we didn't. But even finishing in the top 24 is now looking as if it's going to become even harder, because teams now know that where you end up in the league phase is more important than anything, because all before it was the group phase and you had your groups. You knew you had any team in pot 1 knew that they had 3 teams that were pot 2, a team that maybe be hard, pot 3, pot 4, they were never worried about, let's face it. Now it's all about getting into that top 8 so that they automatically qualify, because when you automatically qualify, 9.2 million payment straight into the bank. 9.2 million just for the automatic qualification phase. And then when you start seeing that and you start seeing the money topping up, do you know, it's just, there was talk of a European Super League a few years ago. We're now watching the European Super League being formed in front of our eyes. They did try and change it to the league format to make it a little bit easier for other clubs, but I mean, Chelsea in 12th, Tottenham in 14th, Galatasaray, PSV, Atletico Madrid, you know, Napoli 24th. They drew tonight. I mean, they could have, if they had just put 1 goal in, they would have jumped away up the table. And there was a potential for them to get into definitely the top 10. But when you look at some of the teams that are in the Champions League, and then you look for the team that put out Celtic, and this is when it hits home. The team that Celtic were unable to beat haven't won a game in the Champions League. And what does it say for us going forwards as a club? Now, it could be said that it was the tactics of the old manager. But then we've been saying this for years. We've never brought in a manager. And this is why we're talking about this tonight, because it all comes down to the people that we want out the board. These people are the people that are making the decision about who comes into the club and manages. And if they can't get it right, bringing back Brendan Rodgers, if they can't get someone that our owner liked, and does it come down to them? Or is it the owner that has the final say? Or is it the owner that has the first say? Whatever happens at Celtic, are we really that confident about the future with the same board? No, we're not. We need massive change at Celtic, but it's not going to happen in time for a new manager coming in. So now this puts things 2 or 3 years down the line when it comes to manager, because we're not going to get a new owner. You may get some new people on the board, but they're going to be people that ultimately the majority shareholder knows. Susan Whelan might come in, but she's Irish. She's obviously got a connection to Dermot Desmond. How much of a change will that be? Do you know, will it make massive changes to the board? Meanwhile, Celtic fans are out at the Celtic Superstore. Pictures all over Twitter and such like for Celtic fans not doing a boycott, that's for sure. Not doing a boycott. So anyway, tell me your thoughts on going forwards this week, because it is a big week at Celtic. We do have a game in the Europa, and do we need to take it on the chin that the Europa is our level? Now, we're not in a great place in the Europa League yet, but we could be. You never know. Europa League. I mean, when you look at the table for the Europa, we play the team on Thursday evening, an early kick-off, and they have not lost a game. This is a big test for the Celtic squad. It's a big test for Celtic. And yes, we can look back and say, look, we're not as strong as we wanted to be in the last transfer window. But ultimately, we've all said it for years now, Celtic are a Europa League club. So if we are a Europa League club, we have to make headway. We have to get some kind of result against Midtjylland. But I mean, look at Aston Villa. Aston Villa were flying high in the Champions League last year. There was at one point that Aston Villa were top of the Champions League for the first couple of games. Do you know they were top of the Champions League? They're now 10th in the Europa. I mean, I thought it was crazy that a team like Aston Villa can get into the Champions League, but it's where you finish in England. And then when you look down where Celtic are, down in 21st, I mean, we are in that safe spot to try and qualify, but we don't want to be in a safe spot. Surely a club like Celtic should be fighting for the top, to finish top 8 in the Europa. End of. Just finish top 8. We should be a top 8 finish club. But the reality is when you've got clubs like Bologna who outspend Celtic, clubs like Nottingham Forest that outspend Celtic, even Fenerbahce outspend Celtic. What is Aston Villa outspend Celtic? You've got lots of teams in this league that far outspend Celtic on wages and their income. So where do we go from here? That is the big question as a support. And what do you think we'll be able to achieve on Thursday evening? And the talk of the young guy coming from Kilmarnock, I just think that's pure nonsense. I do think it's nonsense. I don't think if Celtic are making moves to bring in a player for the first team without us having a manager, what does it say to any manager coming in? But then again, it's maybe modern football, aren't you? Martin's wanting a swan song, but it's Martin who? Let me just jump back to the comments. We'll get some of the comments in. The next manager is Maloney. I don't think it's Maloney. He's not manager material for Celtic. I'm going to be honest. He's not up there with. He's not a motivator enough. He's a number 2 at best, Sean Maloney. But then again, will he be number 2 to a certain Martinez? Who knows? Really Care says, if we want to do okay in the Champions League, we're going to need a better quality player, which I don't think that we will do. Do we though? Because the team last year, the team that we've got just now, minus Kuhn, minus Kyogo, we need 2 players. We need a couple of players in. Say we get a couple of real good quality players in. Has it not been proven now that it comes down to the manager's ability rather than the players? Yes, good quality players will win you games in the Champions League, but a good manager that can get more out of a standard player, an average player, say you can get, the way that I look at it, football, if you can get an average player to play 110% for 90 minutes, there's every chance that the football gods can go with you and you can beat good players that only put in 70%. Look at Rio Hatate, for instance. You come up a team that have got players that are fantastic, but they have an off game and they're only put in 70%. And you've got a manager that can tactically tune into that and not just play the one style of football. Not just believe that he is the fucking prima donna of fucking Gucci belts. Do you know, not to believe that he's the most important person in the room. Martin O'Neill's very humble that way. Martin O'Neill's come in and let everybody know that he's not the most important person in the room. He let the players know that they are the most important people in the room. And I think that that's the difference. And that's the type of manager that we need. We don't need somebody with a big ego that thinks that they know better than everyone else. We need someone that can come in and go, do you know what? We've got some really, really good players here that just need a little bit of confidence boost and a little push in the right direction and a little bit of extra training, do you know? and they can achieve things. They're never going to be Messi-like. They're never going to be Ronaldo-like. But I tell you one thing, they've maybe got about 50% of what some of these top players can do. But they could push on. They can improve. Do you know, top players are good players. And they hit the heights the whole of their career. Some players just take a little bit longer, and that's what Celtic are bringing in. Players that just take a little bit longer. So anyway, so we made around about 4.2 million this far from the Europa League, says Michelle. Is that right? It's nothing compared to the Champions League, is it? You get more than that for just being in the league phase of the Champions League. So it just shows you how much money that we're going to be short this season, come the end of this season. You know, when it comes to the end of the season and they're looking at the books, and they're looking at the wages, and they're going to go, something needs to happen. Dyson, you're gone. Rio, you're gone. Getting 20 million for both of them, and it's happy days. That's what the board was saying over. But anyway, we move on this evening. Let me just jump through the comments. Brian Warrior says that Desmond isn't a dafty. He will retire Lowell, move Nicholson on Baz. And if he appoints Coudson, then the forces... I don't know. Is Coudson the man? Listening to his interviews over the last week or so, you know, he's getting fit. He's getting into Brendan Rodgers territory with talking about his players not putting in the effort and stuff. And I don't think that really that's what Celtic need. Like I said, we need someone like Martin O'Neill that isn't going to throw players under a bus. That's going to tell the players, look, you've had a bad game, but you're still good. Do you know, it's real good managers never publicly throw players under the bus. They never call them out. They never say that they're a Honda Civic. I think we should have known the writing was on the wall as soon as he said that. The biggest stake was bringing back the Rat for the second time. Danny reckons we'll get the treble. The next few seasons, the top 16 in the Champions League will be pot 1 and 2 teams. The rest will be played for non-seeded playoff place. Yeah, it's the way it's looking, isn't it? I mean, it doesn't take long for the big clubs to figure out what's going on, and then the money starts. They start putting all their efforts into the earlier games, because normally in the Champions League, big clubs know that they can sort of meander through the group stages, and they know that things don't get tasty until the tail end of once it gets out of the group phase. But now, because the group phase is now extended into January, the top teams now know that, listen, if you want to do well in the Champions League, we need to hit the ground running, because it's not just about qualifying anymore. Do you know, it's not just about finishing top of your group. It's about the higher you finish up the league, do you know, the more money you get, and sometimes a bit of an easier passage through, because you're not having to play a playoff. You get right through into the last 16, and then still the team that you then come up against in the last 16 is not going to be the quality that you may have come up against when it was the pot 1-2 system. So it's interesting the way that they change it. Just jump through this. We need to be the high end of the Europe team. We do. We need to be way further up where we are in the Europa League. I mean, if we've got any aspirations at all, the man that's the manager just now, well, the interim manager, we don't know how long he's going to be here, but I mean, Martin O'Neill, you've got to remember, Martin O'Neill got put out the Champions League in 2003. We didn't qualify for the Champions League. That's why we ended up in the Europa that season. It wasn't a success at the beginning of the season. It wasn't seen as a success. But as the results started coming in, when it gets to the Blackburn game, and we beat Blackburn, that's when Celtic fans started believing, we could actually get a run to the final here. They started planning out. I know that it's a bit different now because of the league system, but they started planning out, there's every chance that we could actually do this. And there was a belief. And that belief grew and helped us through the season. Ultimately, it didn't help us domestically. There is the caveat that sometimes when you do well in Europe, you don't do as great domestically. And there's been a team in Scotland that has been living proof of that over the last 10 years anyway. And it's unbelievable to think that is such a shit show that lot have been. And for all the meltdown stuff that's been on, the banter years videos. I mean, I was doing banter years videos 10 years ago. To think about everything that they've went through, they've still got to the later stages in Europe, which we would jump at. We would absolutely jump at. But would you be prepared to take the hit in the league? And this is where it comes down to the Lawwell and the thinking that's been behind Celtic for the last 20 years is all being about just being dominant in the league. Just win the league. Be dominant in Scottish football. Europe's a bonus. That's another reason we need a change of hierarchy. We need a change of hierarchy that don't see Europe as a bonus, that see Europe as an ambition. And you would think with the length of time that these people have been at Celtic, and they often speak about the glorious history of Celtic Football Club and the Champions League and in the 70s and the 60s and everything, and the way that the club went. But the modern day board have no real aspirations. These people in charge that are in charge of bringing in the new manager have no real aspirations publicly to take the fans on another journey like 2003. I mean, they've said it at umpteen AGMs over the year. The objective for Celtic Football Club is to win the Scottish Premier League and be the dominant force. Peter Lawwell's exact words, be the dominant force in Scottish football. And the reasons that we keep cash back is for when we don't make the Champions League. So you're not even trying to improve the team for a European basis. We move forward from here, Baz. Yeah, we do. We move way forward, and we'll move way through the comments. I sent you an interview on Twitter of Sean Maloney today discussing Martin choosing between Shin and Arnon. Explains a lot. Good read. I'll need to have a look at that. 2 seconds. Did you send that just now? Is this an exclusive? I need to pay for it. Sorry, I don't pay for websites. Send me the text, since you must pay for it. But yeah, we move on swiftly because it is Tuesday evening and it's a bit quiet tonight because Champions League football is on. Anyway, what is the Champions League scores? A lot of draws tonight. Bayern's winning, that's about it. The rest are all drawn. 35 minutes in and everyone's so 0-0. Not a lot of goals. That's where Celtic should be, because Celtic have got goals in them. Oh, somebody's just scored. Olympiacos have just scored. And Bayern have just scored a second. Oh, Tottenham have just scored. There we go. See, you start talking about it 35 minutes in and goals galore start happening in the Champions League. Anyway, that is me done and dusted for this evening. The big news this evening is Martin O'Neill had to rush back to London yesterday. He had to rush back to London. Oh, and by the way, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do, because we are something like 22 subscribers away from 24,000. And it'd be good to get to that before Thursday evening. We'll do that tomorrow, hopefully. But yeah, the big news of the evening is the fact that Martin O'Neill had to rush back down to London yesterday to get his passport, or he wouldn't be going away with Celtic anywhere. It'd have been Sean Maloney, and that's it. When you look at an alleged article that Celtic are interested in a Kilmarnock player, well, it's not an alleged article, it is an actual article that's out there by someone that does have connections to a few Celtic websites, and he's put out stuff that's happened before, but he sometimes puts stuff out. If Celtic are trying to get in a player with no manager, first team players, what's the point in having a manager? It's then like what Brendan Rodgers said, it's a caretaker you're looking for, it's not a manager. It's somebody just to sort of be the face of the media on a week-in-to-week basis. That's a story for another night. Anyway, tomorrow night we'll be talking all about the Midtjylland, them that have a fantastic little stadium, them that have fantastic VAR when they have their home games in their own league. VAR that we could only wish for. VAR that's open, transparent, and the cameras go live to them during the game. Wouldn't that be fantastic in Scottish football? On that note, thank you to the 1,390 people that have been on the live tonight. I shall see you first thing in the morning. On that note, have a fantastic evening, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world.